Hey guys, welcome to the very next Basic Bible. I am BJ. I will be your host today for the next 10 minutes of our Basic Bible quick read, reading the entire nation of the entire history of the northern nation of Israel. The nation was one nation. Solomon screws everything up. God splits it into two. The bottom half they call Judah, the top half they still call Israel. Eventually, the top half of Israel gets exiled. So we're reading from the split until the exile. All right, here we go. 2 Kings chapter 6. We got us 10 minutes at a time. Start my timer right about. There we go. Sometime later, King Ben-Hadad of Aram brought all his military units together, marched up and laid siege to Samaria. Now, this is just after Israel had done good stuff for Samaria, Aram, and Aram was like, we're not going to attack you anymore. But now they are. All right. So there was a severe famine in Samaria. The army surrounds Samaria. Nobody can leave to go to the croplands, which are outside of the city. The food inside the city starts running low. All right. So there was a severe famine in Samaria, and they continued the siege against it until a donkey's head sold for way too much money, I guess, 4 ounces of silver, and a cup of dove's dung sold for 2 ounces of silver. Dove's dung is for gardening. Yeah. So they were eating donkey's heads and they wanted gardening stuff, but it was way too expensive. Inflation. Okay, anyway. As the king of Israel was passing by on the wall, a woman cried out to him, "My lord, the king, help." He answered, "I wonder which king this is. We've been talking about this king, that king, the other king so much. One of Ahab's sons. I don't remember here. Let me see if I can go back. Naaman, yeah, came to the king of Israel. There's Aram, Gehazi pursued Naaman. Let's go back one more. One of the wives, the widows, Elisha, the Shunammite, persuaded in the upper room. She summoned her husband. Gehazi went ahead of him. One more, maybe Joram, son of Ahab. Maybe that's the king. Okay. Joram marched out from Samaria. Elisha the king to Joram. Moab saw the fiercest two battle for him. He took his son. That's the crazy story. Okay, maybe it's Joram. Maybe Joram's still the king. We'll see though, because oftentimes you get a lot of history. Then suddenly it starts talking about this king was king and that king was king, and they reigned for this many years. This king was king and they reigned for many years. This king and that king. So we'll see. All right. As a king, I'm just going to read this almost straight through and see what y'all think about it. This is a crazy story. As the king of Israel was passing by on the wall, a woman cried out to him, "My lord, the king, help." King answered, "If the Lord doesn't help you, where can I get help for you? From the threshing floor or the winepress?" Then the king asked her, "What's the matter?" She said, "This woman said to me, 'Give up your son, and we will eat him today. Then we will eat my son tomorrow." Severe famine up here. Yeah. "So we boiled my son and ate him. And I said to her the next day, 'Give up your son, and we will eat him.' But she has hidden her son." When the king heard the woman's words, he tore his clothes. Then, as he was passing by on the wall, the people saw that there was sackcloth under his clothes next to his skin. He announced, "May God punish me and do so severely if the head of Elisha, son of Shaphat, remains on his shoulders today." Why doesn't he take the blame for leading the people into sin instead of blaming Elisha, who, aggravated the enemies by helping Israel? Elisha helps Israel. The enemies get aggravated. Why blame Elisha? Elisha was sitting in his house, and the elders were sitting with him. Oh, by the way, cannibal story. That's crazy. No good. Anyway, okay. The king sent a man ahead of him, but before the messenger got to him, Elisha said to the elders, "Do you see how this murderer, the king, has sent someone to remove my head?" Up here, verse 31. Elisha, son of Shaphat, remains on his shoulders. Look, when the messenger comes, shut the door to keep him out. Isn't the sound of his master's feet behind him? While Elisha was still speaking with them, the messenger came down to him. Then he said, "This disaster is from the Lord. Why should I wait for the Lord any longer?" I don't know who the he is. When Elisha was speaking, the messenger came down and said, "Okay, behold, the messenger came to him and said," okay. Elisha replied, "Hear the word of the Lord." So the messenger got in. He was like, "Go shut the door. Don't let the messenger in." But then the messenger got in because the people weren't quick enough. So now Elisha's replying to him, "Hear the word of the Lord. This is what the Lord says. About this time tomorrow at Samaria's gate, 6 quarts of fine flour will sell for a half ounce of silver, and 12 quarts of barley will sell for a half ounce of silver." Instead of a cup of dove's dung used to farm selling for a bunch of silver, you'll get edible stuff for only a half ounce of silver. Pretty good. Then the captain, the king's right-hand man, responded to the man of God, "Look, even if the Lord were to make windows in heaven, could this really happen?" Elisha announced, "You will in fact see it with your own eyes, but you won't eat any of it." Wonder what that means. That's my coffee making noise. Here we go. Now, 4 men with a skin disease were at the entrance to the city gate. They said to each other, "Why just sit here until we die? If we say, 'Let's go into the city,' we will die there because the famine is in the city. But if we sit here, we will also die. So now, come on, let's surrender to the Arameans' camp. If they let us live, we will live. If they kill us, we will die." So the 4 men with a skin disease. So the diseased men got up at twilight to go to the Arameans' camp. When they came to the camp's edge, they discovered that no one was there, that the Lord had caused the Aramean camp to hear the sound of chariots, horses, and a large army. The Arameans had said to each other, "The king of Israel must have hired the king of the Hittites and the king of Egypt to attack us." So they'd gotten up and fled at twilight, abandoning their tents, horses, and donkeys. The camp was intact, and they had fled for their lives. That's hilarious. When the diseased men came to the edge of the camp, God's awesome that way. Man, we're like, God kills everybody when he wants to defeat them. No, sometimes he just tricks them. When the diseased men came to the edge of the camp, they went into a tent and ate and drank. Then they picked up the silver, gold, and clothing and went off and hid them. They came back and entered another tent, picked up things and hid them. Then they said to each other, "We're not doing what is right. Today is a day of good news. If we are silent and wait until morning light, our punishment will catch up with us. So let's go tell the king's household." I guess they suddenly their conscience struck them and they went, "Wait a minute, we should let other people know about this. We're dying. And hey, if we don't, God's going to punish us." I bet if they didn't, God would figure out a way to get all the good stuff, the food and such. But it seems like God is working through these 4 men. That's pretty neat. The diseased men came and called to the city's gatekeepers and told them, "We went to the Arameans' camp and no one was there, no human sounds." Oh, by the way, the reason everybody's inside the city, the Arameans are outside. Well, how did these 4 guys get outside the city? There's huge walls, huge gates. Nobody could get out. Leprous people had to stay outside the camp, outside the city wall, lest they infect other people with their leprosy. So they just happen to be outside. God works through the weak among us. That's so awesome. Anyway, there was nothing but tethered horses and donkeys, and the tents were intact, said the 4 men. The gatekeepers called out, and the news was reported to the king's household. So the king got up in the night and said to his servants, "Let me tell you what the Arameans have done to us. They know we are starving, so they have left the camp to hide in the open country, thinking, when the king comes out to the city, we will take them alive and go into the city." But one of his servants responded, "Please let messengers take," one of the king's servants, "please let messengers take 5 of the horses that are left in the city." 5, a bunch of them probably died. Their fate is like the entire Israelite community who will die anyway. So let's send them and see. The messengers took 2 chariots with horses, and the king sent to them after the Aramean army, saying, "Go and see." So they followed them as far as the Jordan. They followed the army. They saw that so they didn't just go to the camp. They followed the Aramean army. They followed them as far as the Jordan River. They saw that the whole way was littered with clothes and equipment the Arameans had thrown off in their haste. The messengers returned to the king and told the king. Then the people went out and plundered the Aramean camp. It was then that 6 quarts of fine flour sold for a half ounce of silver, and 12 quarts of barley sold for a half ounce of silver, according to the word of the Lord. I would not, if Elisha said it, I would believe it. I say that, but I'm a sinner also. The king had appointed the captain, his right-hand man, to be in charge of the city gate, but the people trampled him in the gate. He died just as the man of God had predicted when the king had come to him. I don't think God killed him. I think Elisha just saw, hey, this is what's going to happen. No. God didn't force people, okay, you're going to run exactly this way where you trample the man, but Elisha knows the future because God tells him. Anyway, that's my guess. I don't know. When the man of God had said to the king, about this time tomorrow, 12 quarts of barley will sell for half ounce of silver, and 6 quarts of fine flour will sell for half ounce of silver at Samaria's gate. I'm going to go ahead and read it at the end of the chapter. This captain had answered the man of God, look, even if the Lord were to make windows of heaven in heaven, could this really happen? Elisha had said, you will in fact see it with your own eyes, but you won't eat any of it. This is what happened to him. The people trampled him in the city gate and he died. There we go again. You see another common motif of the author repeating himself over and over again. All right, guys, that's it for this very basic Bible, Israel, nation of the northern history of Israel, quick read. Remember, scroll down and just above the comments, look for the verse by verse teachings that I've left there for your enjoyment. Go and learn more about all this. We'll see you on the next very basic Bible.